A scaffolding structure groans, buckles, and gives way. When the dust settles, who is responsible for the hospital bills? For decades, companies could point to a loophole in the aftermath of a disaster. They could claim the site didn't legally qualify as a workplace, or that the injured person wasn't officially their employee. Chapter 1, Part 2 of the Occupational Safety, Health, and Working Conditions Code of 2020 addresses this directly. It establishes the strict legal definitions designed to close these corporate escapes. As we see in this diagram, the code takes the sprawling, chaotic reality of the Indian economy and sorts it into three logical pillars: the spaces where work happens, the labor performing it, and the authority in charge. These definitions act as a legal net. By explicitly categorizing every element of a job site, corporations can no longer obscure their relationship to a worker to avoid financial and legal liability. Look at this structural model. The baseline unit of this ecosystem is the establishment. The law defines this as any place of industry, trade, or production that hits a specific gate, employing 10 or more workers. But watch the threshold gate here. If a site engages in hazardous activities or operates as a mine or port, it bypasses the headcount rule. It legally becomes an establishment even if a single person works there. Above the general establishment sits the factory. This higher-tier classification branches into two paths based on infrastructure. A space is a factory if it uses power and has 20 or more workers, or if it operates without power but employs 40 or more. The code also strictly outlines what cannot be a factory. Mobile units belonging to the armed forces, railway running sheds, and hotels are completely exempted, no matter their size or equipment. This balancing scale illustrates the boundary for building or other construction work. If an individual builds their own residence and the total cost stays under 50 lakh rupees, they are exempt from being classified as a commercial construction site. The spatial definitions cover highly specialized zones as well. Dock work encompasses the precise processes of loading cargo, repairing, and preparing ships. Meanwhile, banking companies are legally anchored to specific financial statutes, like the Banking Regulation Act. Tying spaces to hard numerical and locational thresholds removes ambiguity. A business cannot artificially downplay its scale to avoid compliance with safety regulations. Moving to the human element, we see a single legal umbrella. The term employee covers nearly everyone working for wages. Whether wearing a hard hat, a lab coat, or clerical wear, operational or managerial, they share the same baseline classification. Mines have a unique carve-out. In a mining operation, a person is legally classified as employed even if they receive no wages at all, as long as the mine manager has approved their presence on site. A building worker is much narrower. This label applies to labor directly involved in construction, but explicitly excludes anyone whose main duties are managerial or administrative. Look at how this flowchart tracks the hiring process. Contract labor is defined by the presence of an intermediary. The worker is hired through an intermediary contractor to produce a result for the principal employer. But watch the flow break here. If the contractor employs that person permanently, giving them standard pay increments, social security, and welfare benefits, that solid boundary means the worker cannot be legally considered disposable contract labor. Drawing a rigid line between temporary contract labor and permanent employment prevents companies from misclassifying their integral workforce to deny them standard legal benefits. With the spaces built and the labor assigned, the code establishes accountability. This pyramid places the employer at the absolute apex. The law assigns this title to whoever holds ultimate control, specifically the occupier of a factory, the owner of a mine, or a lead contractor. The contractor sits below them as a distinct authority, defined as an entity that either delivers a promised result to the establishment or simply supplies human resources to do the work. The statute also introduces specialized overseers to enforce compliance. This includes the chief inspector cum facilitator, the competent person running safety tests, and the district magistrate overseeing mines. To know exactly what these authorities oversee, the code defines the core activity. This is the essential primary function that an establishment was specifically set up to perform. As this diagram shows, support functions are heavily restricted. Nodes representing sanitation, security, canteens, or courier services attempt to merge with the core activity but bounce off the boundary. By law, they are strictly isolated support services, unless the business was founded specifically to provide them. The code even standardizes the mechanics of time and transport. A day is rigidly set as a 24-hour period starting exactly at midnight. Cargo covers anything carried in a vessel, and a controlled industry is officially designated when the central government takes management over a sector. By mapping the exact chain of command and the precise scope of daily operations, the law ensures that legal accountability never diffuses. It always travels directly upward to a specific, identifiable authority figure. Zooming out, we can see the entire workplace ecosystem mapped by definitions G through W. The three pillars, spaces, labor, and authority, interlock flawlessly to form a complete regulatory framework. This comprehensive taxonomy eliminates the gray areas that once allowed liability to slip through the cracks. Every term defined here, from the start of a day to the specific role of a contractor, acts as an essential parameter. They are the strict conditions required to enforce safe working environments across the modern economy. Fitting into this statutory framework is the trigger that activates a worker's rights. Under this code, being defined is the necessary first step to being defended.